Hey guys, I'm going to be doing a video here on fragging. What I'm going to be fragging is this Aussie blue gold hammer. The way it's growing, one of the heads is not getting a ton of light. It splitted that head off a little while ago, and it just isn't getting a ton of light, so it's time to cut it off and move it to a new home. So in this video, I'm going to do that. I'm also going to go through the tools that I use when I frag, and walk you kind of through step by step what that process looks like for me. All right, so let's get into some of the tools here. So this is a pretty typical frag kit. Bone cutters, scissors, tweezers, different things like that, little picks there. For many years in the hobby, this is all I had. I trimmed everything with it, from SPS to softies. Those bone cutters there I used on Monty Cap, and they splintered and cracked everywhere, and it was just a difficult thing to use it for. So nowadays, unless it's something I can't take out of the tank, I don't use this. Those two bone cutters would be used for something that I have to frag and can't take out of the tank. Those two pieces there I actually use to clean my equipment with. They get into all the little crevices and help me clean up all my equipment. And then the tweezers there I use if I drop something in the tank. But essentially, I don't use this really much for fragging at all anymore. I've moved on to a Dremel. And I got this little cordless Dremel here. Right there, I got it from Walmart actually. It was 25 bucks, and it's a cordless Dremel. And I got this because I was going to be cutting some rainbow chalices, and I didn't want them to splinter everywhere, so I decided to upgrade, and this was super cheap. It was 25 bucks. I went to Menards and got these cutting wheels. The cutting wheels were 20 bucks, so they were just about as much as the Dremel, but they do a nice smooth cut without splitting or cracking anything. Of course, some of the other tools you're going to need is some super glue gel. I always use the gel. I don't just use the regular super glue, and I think that's pretty common in the hobby. You can get it at the dollar store. That's where I get most of mine. And then, of course, either a frag plug or a frag disc. I always buy cured frag plugs and disc. I do not buy the uncured and cure myself. I go ahead and buy them already cured. You are also going to need a reservoir. That's a reservoir with some tank water in it. It's just a little plastic container that I always use for fragging. Little water in there, so when I cut the pieces off, they aren't just laying on a towel or on my counter. They go back into water, and of course, that is water that has been removed from the tank. All right, so let's go ahead and get this guy out of the tank so I can use the Dremel and cut off a head real quick. So the first thing to note is I'm going to pick it up and move it around. I want those heads to close as much as possible before I pull it out of the water. That way I'm not putting a ton of stress on heads that are full and inflated. This is even more important when you're doing something like a torch, because those are long heads. So we're going to get them to deflate as much as possible. I'm going to prep my frag plug with some super glue on it, and then I'm going to cut the head off. And here's something to note. So this is the head cut off. Notice it is one smooth cut straight through, and it's far down the skeleton. You can see there I'm cutting through dead skeleton and dead skeleton only. There is no flesh anywhere near where I'm cutting. I've cut low enough that it is just the skeleton, no flesh at all. Put it right onto that super glue that's been prepped. Notice it's flat, so it stands right up. I don't have to try to hold it while it cures. It just stands right up on that disc when I have the glue sitting there. It would stand up without the glue sitting there. So that's kind of what I want. That way it's not rocking around. And then I'm going to take a little bit of tank water and just get that glue to cure a little bit. So I'll put a little bit of tank water on there. Now, normally what I do is I take that frag plug just like that, and I just set it in that reservoir of water. But I'm doing this so you can kind of see the glue cure. This isn't my typical process. Normally I set it in that reservoir of water and I just let it sit for a few minutes in there to cure. And then of course after it cures, down into the tank it goes, and this is it here right after fragging, sitting in the tank. You can tell it's mad, it's closed up, but it will open up very quickly because again, I didn't trim anywhere near the skin, anywhere near the flesh. I trimmed low enough that I went through dead skeleton and dead skeleton only. All right, so here is the colony that I cut it from. You can see right there where I cut it from, right up against the dead skeleton. Nowhere near the flesh of any of the corals. It was cut clean right there. I didn't leave any surface poking out or anything like that. Just a nice clean cut right up against the skeleton. And here it is, short while after being placed back in the tank. It is not matte anymore. It's opening up, and it's filling up and looking good again. And I will let this guy sit for a little while, and then it will go to its new home. It was one of the ones that I have that somebody asked me for a while back, and didn't really want to frag it, but finally got around to the point where I needed to. So it has a new home already waiting for it. And so here's a little top-down view of it. Again, it's open. You can see how full it's open on that disc there, because that's a pretty good sized disc. And I got a shot of here of the colony open and healthy and back to normal. So if you like this, give me a like, give me a subscribe, check out some more of my content, and I'll get some more out soon. Thanks, guys.